It is the square at the heart of Cairo, which represents the heart of the Egyptian people. What happens in Tahrir Square, a clear litmus test of public feeling. No surprise then that it was central to Egypt's part in the Arab Spring, which led to the downfall of Hosni Mubarak after nearly 30 years in power. Initially, thousands of protesters gathered here on the 25th of January 2011. In the coming days, the protests went on, many setting up camp in the square, the number of protesters swelling until they became all but incalculable. As security forces used rubber bullets and water cannon, protesters hurled cobblestones. The military were called in, despite their reluctance to take sides. Then, after 18 days, Mubarak finally stepped aside. The number of people killed, around 850, according to the health ministry, with over 6,000 injured.
In the name of God, the merciful, the gracious, citizens, in these grave circumstances that the country is enduring, President Hosni Mubarak has decided to leave his position as President of the Republic and ask the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces to run the country. May God be our helper.
Well, since then, protesters have again returned to Tahrir Square, as most notably, less than 2.5 years later, again, thousands packed in to demand the removal of the democratically elected President Mohamed Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood. Many said the revolution they staged the first time around had been hijacked. The military, under General Abdel al-Sisi, took control and suspended the constitution in a move seen either as a revolution or a coup, leaving many who fought for change feeling little has changed. Well, Ladia Bletry, Eric de Lavaren and Claire Willio revisit Tahrir Square for France 24.
Seven years after the January 2011 revolution, there are no more dreams for the future in Tahrir Square. This symbol of popular uprising has become a crossroads just for cars. All gatherings are forbidden. Police are everywhere and their rules are clear. No unauthorized filming and, above all, no more talk of politics. The authoritarian might of President Abdel al-Sisi has gagged Egyptian society, once more ruled by an iron fist. Samia, the daughter of one of the country's most prominent poets and activists, followed in her father's footsteps. She sang in Tahrir Square with her group, nicknamed the Band of the Revolution by other protesters. Nowadays, Samia has stopped singing. Her only remnants of the revolution are books and memories.
This is Hani. He's a theater director and an actor, and here he's injured in Tahrir. Those are of the clashes on the 28th of January. I was scared. There was a real battle. On the front lines were battling with the police for hours. Every few minutes there would be some boys running with somebody injured, and we would try to help, and blood all over, and many of them were already dead, and it was and we could hear the gunshots and the tear gas. It's difficult watching the picture. I didn't know that it would do this to me. I'm sorry. I think we haven't yet recovered from all what happened. Right now, I'm just pushing it away and trying to move on and gathering whatever's left of my strength to not fall apart and to be there for those who need us.
Where are you going, Samia?
I'm going to the studio because now I'm working on a storytelling project for children. So I'll go and record some nice stories for children. Nobody can go to Tahrir anymore. Nobody's allowed anymore. It's become a military area. The regime has tried in every possible way to erase all the memories of anything related to what had happened in 2011. They are making sure that nothing reminds the people of how powerful they were or what they did, really. Nobody's allowed to breathe out loud. It's unbelievable. So they're destroying everything. They are convincing people on the streets that the young people who held their lives on their hands and went to the streets were actually people who took money from abroad to sabotage the country and to destroy the country.
This theory is often broadcast on state television and voiced by figures close to those in power, such as Abdel Ali. This media mogul is never far from his bodyguards, even during visits to his newsrooms. Until 2015, he broadcast the wiretapped phone calls of opposition figures on his television program. His aim was to slander the goals of the popular uprising.
Well, of course it was a foreign plot, just like with every revolution in the world. During the 2011 revolution, every bit of Tahrir Square was occupied by foreign Secret Service agents. But what happened on the 25th of January lasted until the 30th June, and that was the real revolution.
On the 30th of June 2013, hundreds of thousands of protesters converged once again on Tahrir Square to demand the overthrow of President Mohamed Morsi, a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. Morsi's supporters organized counter-protests. These were quickly and bloodily suppressed by the army, which then regained control of Egypt. Field Marshal Sisi became president, seizing total control. Only a handful of independent cultural spaces from the revolution still exist. MANAL and RASHA protested in Tahrir Square in 2011. This experience transformed their ways of working. They turned to crowdfunding to produce their last film in this independent cultural center in Cairo.
Today is the last day of our campaign to fundraise for our new film, Hamam Sokna. The campaign ends in a few days' time. We've seen a new wave of independent films since 2011, all with different production methods, many more than before. And that's really linked to the freedoms that people experienced on the streets at this time. This way they're able to recreate places of free expression. For example, we're here because the streets are closed to us, and public spaces too. We try constantly to create new spaces. Here people can sit, meet, chat, see and participate in work and productions. The idea of bringing people together and including them in the production, that's new. It didn't exist before.
With the 15,000 euros they raise, MANAL and RASHA can finish their film, a fictionalized account of their own experience of the revolution.
We're nearby. Wait. It's in this alleyway and on this street, no?
Yes, that's it. Okay, here we are, finally.
There's a street vendor.
Today, they're scouting locations in a working-class neighborhood a stone's throw from Tahrir Square, where they found shelter in January 2011 while fleeing police violence.
Here's the place where the action in our film unfolds. We chose this carefully, according to our own experiences. We wanted to make a film with this exact subject, women hiding in a hammam.
That day was the only time where we had the real sensation of being human. We felt connected to this country, that we belonged to it. We had the idea that citizens had the right to say yes or no, to make demands, to accept or refuse things. This was something rare and exceptional in our lives. Now we really make an effort to recall these moments and to record them in this film.
أنا ممكن أستنى هنا شوية؟
هو إيه اللي بيحصل بره؟
اللي قلنا سعادتك هو عيد الشرطة ده بمناسبة إيه؟
This has been an opportunity for us to discover different kinds of people. People who we'd never have met otherwise because of our social differences. We witnessed random strangers do these heroic things and no one said anything. Our film is about these people, and not just the heroes which were found on the streets, because there were also people who acted heroically inside their own homes, and no one talks about them.
It's important to us to make a film about these moments of victory during the revolution, at a time when the revolution is losing. This is a simple way to remind people of their past victories, and that life isn't just a story of defeats. Certainly the revolution is currently failing. The situation is very difficult on every level.
Since President Sisi came to power, 60,000 people have been imprisoned in Egypt. Opponents of the regime, human rights activists, civil society representatives, and journalists. But freedom is no longer the priority for the majority of Egypt's 95 million citizens. Over the past year, the issue of the economy has become key in a country devastated by financial crisis. MINA, aged 23, comes from a working-class neighborhood. 7 years ago, he went down to Tahrir Square to chant for better living conditions. Since then, his financial situation has grown even worse.
When I buy tomatoes, a kilo costs £6. I got a kilo and a half for £9. Of course, these things are more expensive nowadays. Before they used to cost £3 per kilo, now it's £6. That's double.
In recent months, inflation has reached almost 30% in Egypt. The population has lost its buying power, and many feel overwhelmed. According to MINA, political elites are now laughing at the Egyptian people.
They heard us, but no one reacted. Nothing is being done. The price of groceries has continued to rise. Because of that, people who still manage to eat fava beans, a dish of a poor, no longer can. I have no idea how the next generation will manage to make any money.
With her tales of traditional Egyptian culture, Samia wants to reach precisely this new generation. Tonight, her recording is almost complete.
The sound of kaki-kaki?
Now we're it?
Yes.
Behind her light-hearted stories for children, Samia has a clear objective.
I'm just trying to make sure that our children stay connected to us in some way and to our ancestors. I personally believe that part of finding ourselves and regaining our strength is always connected to our past. So I don't see that as far from Tahrir, because part of what happened in those 18 days was us trying to regain our country, trying to make it ours again, because it is ours.
A few days before her album launch, Samia is testing out her stories on her friends' children. At a time when the Egyptian regime keeps a tight grip on discussions of recent history, Samia is trying her own method to build a collective memory.
And on the way, can you guess who she met? A farmer working his land. She said to him, "Hello, mister." He replied, "Hello, delightful little girl. Could you give me some water?" She said to him, "Mister, I swear to you, there's no more water in our house, and I'm carrying a bucket to fill up the well." But give me your jar and I'll fill it up for you. He replied, thank you, lovely girl, for your kindness.
الله شكرا يا ست الحسن كتر خيرك. Those are my little revolutionaries. When I look at them, I'm hopeful for the future, of course. With such beautiful kids, something good has to come out. So, yes, I am hopeful for the future. Yeah, I try not to lose hope, and they help me not lose hope.
18 days weren't enough to politically transform Egypt, a country in the grip of its own army for decades. Egyptian youth, representing more than 60% of the population, are detached from politics. But buried in the memories of every Egyptian is a reminder that overthrowing their leader is always a possibility.
Nadia Bletry, Eric de Lavaren and Claire Willio revisiting Tahrir Square for France 24. That's all for this week's edition. Don't forget, of course, you can catch it and all the previous editions as well on our website at france24.com. More news coming up very soon. Stay with us.